Okay, hello team. My name is Mahesh. In this video, we are doing one AWS project, and in this particularly session itself, we are looking to three services which are pretty much complex in the VPC itself. So in this video, we are implementing this particular architecture. Inside this architecture, we have a two VPCs, and we have a public and private subnet. So each public and private subnets are having a specific CIDR values, and it those public and private subnets public and private subnet can have a different IP ranges. So with those things we can able to communicate throughout our first VPC to the second VPC. In this consumer VPC, in this particular EC2 instance, we are set up our application, and throughout our secondary VPC, we can access this particular application by using the load balancer and the VPC endpoint service. So in this particular session, we look into the EC2 endpoint service. We look into the network load balancer. We look into the public and private subnet of the VPC. We look the VPC itself. We look the we'll look the NAT gateway, what NAT gateway does, and some other details too. So make sure you watch this particular session till the end. Okay, so this is the overall architecture. So let's go and create the VPC. First, we need to create a VPC and the rest of the things which we need to create. Let's go on VPC. We need to create a customer VPC first. We are creating this part. So customer VPC. You can create whatever name you want. We are using the CIDR block as a manual input, and we keep the tendency as default. We don't select any like we can say physical we can say dedicated hardware or something. So we are keeping that thing as a default, and we are using the 11 series 16 we are using this particular CIDR 11.0.0.0/16. So we get much more IPs. So let's create a VPC first. After that, we need to create a two subnets. First one, it is a public subnet, and second one is a private. Those are the default subnets. Let's create the subnet inside our customer VPC. Uh, customer customer VPC public subnet 1A. So we are creating a public subnet for a customer VPC. Create one. Uh, I'm using the availability zone as a South AP South 1A, and my public subnet CIDR was 1.0 slash 30 slash 24. So I'll get it around 256 IP addresses. So I'm using the 1.0 for my public subnet, and for my private subnet, I am taking a 2.0. So let me select the same availability zone, and for the private subnet, 0.2.0 slash 24. Yeah. So I have created the two subnets. The first one is a customer one, and yeah. So basically, I have created those two subnets. First one is a public subnet. Second one is a private subnet. Okay, I have made the mistake, but yeah, this is the private subnet. I need to edit the name. Private subnet. Okay. The first one is a public subnet, and second one is a private subnet. Yeah. So first, this is a public. This is the private subnet we are using inside our VPC. Now let's create a route table. And basically, why we use the route table? I have filtered from the VPC itself. So this is the two VP subnets I have created, and this is our customer VPC. So let's go and create a route table for it. Customer customer VPC route table RT, and we are selecting this particular VPC. Let's create a route table for public for this particular VPC. Uh, Public route table. We are assigning this route table as a public, and for also need to create a private route table. Private customer with RT. So route table, private customer RT. The customer VPC we have selected. We have created the two route tables. So let me copy this name. So we can keep the name as same. Okay. So we have created the public and private customer route table, and yeah. So also I need to create the internet gateways. Why we need an internet gateway in this case? Because we need to access the internet inside our Bastion host and inside the public subnet itself. So for that we need to create an internet gateway, and throughout the internet gateway we will able to assign the assign the route the traffic to the internet gateway to the public subnet with the public subnet itself. So customer customer VPC. IGW, Internet Gateway. It is an abbreviation for the Internet Gateway. So I have created the Internet Gateway. Let's attach to the VPC. Let's create a customer VPC and attach to the VPC. We have attached to we have attached the route table to the VPC itself. Let's go on a subnets, and we need to attach the subnets to the route table itself. So for the public route table, we need to go to the subnet association, edit subnet association. This is our public route table. So we need to assign the public subnet 1A inside a public route table. And for the private, we need to assign one private route table. Assign one private subnet 1A. So in normal cases, we have a two public subnets and two private subnets. But in my case, I have created just one single public subnet and single private subnet. So in my case, I have just attached one public and a private subnet. So let's go and edit the public route table. And we have just added the subnet association you can see over here, which is the CIDR is 11.0.1.0. And let's now go on the routes, edit the routes, and assign. We can select all the IPs from the IPv4 internet gateway and internet gateway that we have created. Just save changes. So our public route table can able to access the internet from the any IPs from the IPv4, and also it can able to locally communicate inside the public table. So this is our public route table, and yeah. So what we need to do now, we can able to access the internet over here. Let's go create a two EC2 instance. So one is a Bastion host, another one is reside in the private subnet, and inside the private subnet we don't have allowed any public IP addresses. So if we need to connect to the private EC2 instance, we need to connect first to the Bastion host. After that, we able to connect to that particular instance. And also to install some packages, we need to install for install in the public subnet in the inside a Bastion host. We can use the internet gateway, as we have already inside the public route table. We have also allowed the internet gateway, and for to access some internet inside the private resources itself, such as the VPC, the database, and the whichever the resource you have created inside the private subnet. For that, you need to set up a NAT gateway, and inside that NAT gateway, you need to route the traffic to the particular EC2 instances. For the Bastion host, you can select the you can add the additional layer of security, such as you can create the uh, security group, and inside the security group, you can allow from SSH. Basically, you take SSH to Bastion host to take a SSH of your private EC2 instance, which is reside in the private subnet. And for to Bastion host to for the security group itself, we can allow from the particular CIDR group or particular custom IP address, you can only allow the SSH traffic. So with that, you can add the additional layer of a security. So let's go and create two EC2 instances. First one is a public subnet EC2 instance, customer public subnet EC2. Okay, so let's select t2.micro as default, and let's create a new key pair, public subnet, which is the customer one, customer. Okay, so this is the PEM file. Let's create this and store it inside somewhere. Okay, so I have created the customer key file. Let's select the customer VPC inside the public subnet we need to use. And for the public subnet, we can allow the public IP address for this particular subnet. So we are using the default subnet. We are also able to create the security group, but I'm selecting the default for now. and let's create the launch instance. So we have launched one instance, and let's with the same configuration we can we can also create another one private EC2 instance, private subnet EC2. So let's go on t2.micro, and for the key pair, I need to create one another key pair for the private subnet EC2. So I have created the key pair. Let me save somewhere. Okay. So this is my key pair. Let's select the customer VPC inside the private subnet itself. I am not allowing the public IP address because it defeats the purpose to allow allow direct public IP address to the inside EC2 instance inside the uh, we can say private subnet. So let's launch instance, and yeah, both are the instances in the launching stage. So let me open uh, my terminal over this over here itself. So either I can use the mobile extern, or I am selecting the lightweight version as a git bash. So let's me zoom this, and we can try to connect. Okay, let me zoom this. Okay, so we can try to connect our public subnet first, and after that with the private IP address of a private subnet, and with the private IP address of private subnet we can able to access that instance too. So let's go and create a let's try to access this instance, customer uh, customer VPC inside the customer public EC2 instance, which is residing in the public subnet. EC2 hyphen user is a default username for the machine, and paste the IP address. So I haven't allowed inside the security group. I haven't allowed the port mode 22. So let me check which are the security group that I have attached. So go on the public subnet. Let me select let me go into security groups, and inside this particular security group, you can see there is no SSH traffic. So let me allow SSH from port 22 anywhere from my IP address. So I have allowed my request from the port 22, and yeah, let's try to connect now. Yeah, as you can see, I am able to reach the reach the machine, and I am currently inside my public EC2 instance, the inside the public subnet itself. So our goal is to take SSH of a private EC2 instance. So basically, this EC2 instance work as a Bastion host for us, and with the Bastion host, we can able to access the private EC2 instance. So let's go and copy the private IP address of this machine, and for the before we need to create our the rsa.pem file for our private subnet. So let me edit this. Edit the key file, and yeah, we need to create private ec2.pem. So this is the private key for this particular EC2 instance residing in the private subnet. You can go over here. You will see both are in the same subnet, but both are in the different subnet itself. So if you can see, there is an option for the subnet. So let's create this file first, and we'll paste the contents. Okay, it didn't copy it. Let me copy, and we can paste there. Okay, this is my private key file. You're not supposed to share with anyone. Okay, so let me check permission. See mod 400 private key file. So let me try to take SSH now. SSH hyphen m private key file, and my private EC2 and private IPv4 address of my EC2 instance. Paste, and EC2 hyphen user I have forward EC2 hyphen user at the rate. So if you can see, I am successfully inside my private EC2 instance. And let me try to ping the google.com, which is the 8.8.8. If you can see, it doesn't have internet access. We didn't allow the NAT gateway. We didn't created the NAT gateway for a private subnet, because of which we not able to access any internet traffic. So if you can go, and if you can see, this is my This is my public instance IP address. You can verify that over here. This is the 11 1.129. This is the same IP address if you can see. If I do ping over here, it has a internet gateway is connected. So if you can see it able to connect with the internet itself. So for now, I need to create uh, like Apache server, and throughout this particular EC2 instance, my secondary VPC can able to access this EC2 this Apache server from their VPC. So we need to create the two VPC connection, and throughout this VPC endpoint service or the load balancer, my EC2 instance will be able to access my if my EC2 instance is able to access serve the request or the serve the traffic from the another VPC also. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. So inside this, if you can see, it doesn't we don't have any internet access on this machine itself. So I need to install some packages for that first. But go in the VPC itself, VPC itself, go on the NAT gateways, create the NAT gateway, public, sorry, the private subnet NAT gateway, NAT gateway. Okay. So the subnet, which subnet we need to create? The public subnet we need to create, which have a internet access. So for the public subnet, we need to create. We are using the private NAT gateway because we need to access the private resource. Private NAT gateway can't reach the internet. Okay. So let's select the private NAT gateway and let's create the NAT gateway. It will take a little time to initiate the NAT gateway, but yeah, once it initializes, we can route our private route table to this private NAT gateway itself. So if you are following this till so make sure to watch till the end, and you also need to clear some resources before you log out to this account, so you didn't incur any cost. So make sure you watch till the end. So just wait for some time, and once it got in a ready stage, we need to edit our private route tips. So just give me a second and we'll see what was the status in 2 minutes. Okay, as you can see, my net gateway, the state is enabled. So now I can route my private traffic to that particular route table, to the particular NAT gateway. So I need to allow anywhere from IPv4 a NAT gateway, and I have selected NAT gateway. Save changes, and now if you can see, I am able to access the internet over here. So let just give a second to this EC2 instance, and this EC2 instance will able to access the internet. Okay, my NAT gateway is an available stage. Go on a route table, private route table. Go on a routes, and let's edit this route. So this particular NAT gateway I'm using, and let's save changes. So hopefully I'm able to access the internet inside the private subnet. As you can see, I am able to access the internet inside the private subnet, and yeah. So let's quickly create the Apache server over here. Go in a sudo -i. How you can check the this is the private subnet. Just go on the EC2 instance. This is the EC2, and inside the EC2, we will check the IP address of our private subnet EC2 instance. So this is the 2.162. It is the same EC2 instance. So let's go and create the DNF install HTTPD, which is the Java package for the Amazon Linux too. And I'm being lazy over here. I need an index.html to present index.html page. So I'm copying this template, and using using this template only to access my website. So in your case, it might be a bigger site or something. So let's go on the Vim var www var www html index.html. I have made misspelling mistake. HTML. Yeah. So just go on this page, paste this content, and let's enable the service. Enable HTTPD. Enabled. It's successfully enabled, and let's start the service. And let's look the status of the service. Status. Okay, it is on the loaded stage and it is active and running. So if you do curl localhost, you can able to successfully able to access the website. And from the Bastion host itself, let's try local curl and the IP address, private IP address of our instance. Yeah, we able to access our website inside the Bastion host as well. So we have installed the Apache server inside our private EC2 instance. So we don't require the NAT gateway right now. So we can go and NAT gateway. We can delete this NAT gateway. So click on delete and we should delete this NAT gateway. So yeah, so we have deleted this NAT gateway and we didn't have any access to our access to our private subnet. So yeah, so the NAT gateway is deleting, and once it deleted, we it can this status will get into black hole stage, and we couldn't able to access the inside our private route table. So what we need to do now, we need to create the target group, and we need to allow our subnet private EC2 instance to the target group, and we also create the load balancer. So let's go and create a target group. So instance TG customer TG protocol should be the TCP and port number 80, IPv4 VPC, which is the customer VPC. And let's go on and select the next customer. This is the public subnet which we require, and it load has pending below. Create the target group. Target group is created. Let's go and create a load balancer. We are using the network load balancer in this case. Uh, network NLB customer. So it is a internet facing, and no, it is a internal stack, and we are using the customer VPC inside this particular availability zone. And this is the IPv4 address, and we are using the default security group, the default target group which I have created. And yeah, all those things are looks good. And let's create the load balancer. So inside the security group itself, we need to allow some ports. So let me check which security group I have allowed for this particular target group. So the VPC load balancer target group. Let's go on a load balancer security section and this particular section security group. So I also need to allow HTTPD traffic from the uh, HTTP traffic from the anywhere. So it can able to access my port number 80 and eventually my it can able to access my website. So go on a load balancer. It's still on the provisioning state. Now what we need to do, we need to create the uh, let's wait for some time, and after that we can create the uh, after that we able to create the uh, endpoint service. Basically, what endpoint service do? Uh, in endpoint service, we rather than go into the internet and again access some resources inside with another VPC. We can leverage the internal network of the AWS itself to access the resources privately. So throughout the EC2 endpoint service, we can able to access the another VPC. Uh, we can able to create the connection between or able to access the resources inside the uh, we can able to access the let me show it to you. VPC endpoint point service. It can also call it as a private link. So in this case, what happens? So with the EPC VPC endpoint service, it can able to communicate with your local infrastructure, on-prem infrastructure, as well as it can able to communicate inside the particular VPC itself. So it doesn't need to utilize the our internet gateway or NAT gateway for this to access the resources inside the VPC, or to call the internet outside. So basically, we use the internet, we use this service, endpoint service in this case. So our load balancer in active stage. Let's check the DNS name, port number 80, colon 80. So hopefully, we should have able to access this particular site. Okay, my EC2 instance EC2 security group I need to check for the private subnet. This is my private subnet security group, and this security group. This is the HTTP traffic protocol TCP and port number 80 from anywhere. Yeah, it should able to access. Might it take little time to get set up and able to access the service. So let's go and create an endpoint service. So this is my customer endpoint SVC. So I'm using the network load balancer, and I didn't need to change anything. Supported IPv4. I'm using the IPv4 addressing, and let's go and create the uh, VPC endpoint service. So this VPC endpoint service is active currently, and what we should do, it can also provide the DNS name, and we can also try to access the service from here itself. So this is the DNS names, and through this DNS name, we can able to access also. So let's try port number 80. Okay, we can troubleshoot that later on part. Okay. Uh, inside the route table itself, we can check inside the private route table, edit the route table, and we delete the NAT gateway. Okay, so let me check now. Okay, it's not able to access tab. Okay. The listener, which is the IPv6. This is my public CIDR range. IP South 1 assigned range. IPv6 not applicable. The listeners and the port number 80. So this listener's ARN, and yeah, the okay, my everything is working. Uh, will allow it some time to get initialized. So let's go. We have created all those things inside the customer VPC also, customer VPC only. So let's go and create the secondary VPC. Inside that secondary VPC, we are also creating the EC2 endpoint service, and we also creating the two subnets. We are replicating same setup over the secondary VPC itself, and we able to access this particular EC2 instance with our secondary EC2 instance from the private EC2 instance. So let's go and create the uh, customer second, what we can call customer and customer VPC, and the user VPC, we can say user VPC. So selecting the entirely different IP range, 10 dot, which is the this one 0.0. Okay, this is the IP range we are using 6/16. I'm keeping all the things as default, and let's create a VPC. For subnet, I need to create two subnets again inside the VPC. Public subnet for user env environment. So this is the availability zone I'm selecting, and the IP range is 10.1.0/24. So I'm selecting that IP range. Let's create another subnet, and I'm using the 2.0 over here. It's for the private subnet. Let's copy this private subnet. Reference will be availability zone 1A. and let's create two subnets. Two subnets are created. Now we need to create two route tables, a user VPC RT public public. Let me copy this name, select the user VPC, and let's create the route table. Another thing, let's go and create VPC private route table. Select the user VPC and create route table. So we have created the two route tables. For the private, we need to go on a subnet association, edit subnet, and this is the user availability. This is the private subnet. We need to create the private subnet itself for the private route table. For the public route table, let's go on the subnet association, and we can select the public route table, public subnet for public route table. Okay, for the internet gateway, I'm using the I'm not using I'm using internet gateway inside the user VPC. Let's create an internet gateway attached to the VPC for the user VPC, and let's route the traffic, route the public traffic to that VPC itself, to that internet gateway itself. I mean to say to this. Let's save this, and for to access the resources inside the private subnet, we need to create a two EC2 instance again. So let's go and create two EC2 instance. Let's first what I need to do now. Let me see the architecture diagram. Yeah. So let me go and create the endpoint service for user. I'm using this service user VPC. I'm using the network load balancer. I am using the network load balancer, and I'm using the IPv4 stack. Okay, the I'm missing something over here. Okay, so for the endpoints, I need to create the endpoint. For the endpoint, this is my customer endpoint. So I'm using the another endpoint service. I need to copy the service name. This is the very important. This is the make sure you watch carefully. This is the thing which we need to connect. We need to copy the service name and we need to paste the service name over here. And let me verify. It's verified. I'm using the user VPC, this particular subnet and private subnet itself. Designed IP address. No, I'm not able. I'm selecting. This is the security group, and yeah, everything looks correct. Create the endpoint. So this endpoint it currently on the pending and the acceptance. So if you can go over here and say refresh this two three times, so you will see there is one. Just let me refresh it once. Yeah. So you will see there is a pending in acceptance. So for to connect to those two EC2 two VPCs itself, I need to allow, take action, and accept the joining request. Accept, and this sh- now we accepted this service, and now we should able to if you can go over here. Now we should able to see, we able to communicate. We successfully able to communicate from this EC2 instance to particularly this EC2 instance. So just give me a second. Um, Let me refresh this, and once it is in the active stage, we can able to do that. So this is the active stage endpoint service, and for the endpoints itself, it is still on the pending state. Let's create the two EC2 instance for now. Let's go on the EC2 section itself. EC2, not here. EC2 load. This is those are two customer VPC, customer EC2 instance. I'm creating one private user EC2 instance, user EC2, and I'm selecting the default. Select the key pair as a customer. I select the key pair as a we can say a private sub. We can create a new key pair, user key pair, create a key pair. Okay, so let's go and edit. You select the user VPC, the private subnet itself, and disable the private IP address, public IP address, security group default, and let's launch EC2 instance. Hopefully, yeah, the EC2 instance is launched, and yeah, this is the user EC2 instance, and hopefully we should able to access the resource now. So let me wait until it is on the available stage. Yeah, cool. So we can able to access the service now. So let's go on the endpoint service, and we can copy the DNS name from here, and we'll should go on the connect and VPC endpoint. Okay, this should not able to connect with this particular session. We need to create another VPC. This is the private. We need to create another EC2 instance. Launch user public EC2 instance. It should have a public IP address, user key. I'm selecting the same key, and it is using the user VPC. The public subnet it will utilize. It will allow the it is has a public IP address, security group default, and let's go on launch instance. So yeah, so the EC2 instance is launched. Once it is on the ready stage, we can able to allow. Okay, so cool. Let me exit from here. Okay, let me go this particular tab itself. Go and create a bash here. Okay, so let me select this, minimize that, and let me try to connect to my public EC2 instance, user one. So ssh-i user key.pem EC2 hyphen user at the IP address. This is the public IP address, and hopefully we should able to access that security group. Okay, we shouldn't uh, allow the traffic. Let's go and delete this one. Create the SSH from anywhere and HTTPD to access the HTTP site and save this rule. So those are two rules. We able to access the site now. This I have logged in onto my public EC2 instance, which is 116. If you can see, this is the 116 IP address. Uh, this is the IP address, and for the private EC2 instance, I need to copy this. Let me edit my private key file. This is the user.pem key file. One, I need this to log in my private EC2 instance. Me user.key.pem. Inside that, I need to paste and save chmod 400 user.pem ssh-i user.pem and my private EC2 instance IP address, private IP address of my EC2 instance, I mean to say, which is 0.205 something 25 at the rate EC2 hyphen user. Okay, let's select yes. I'm able to access my EC2 instance. So let me call my website with my EC2 endpoint service. So let me select this. Okay, I have my DNS name over here, and let me select the endpoint service. This is my DNS name. Let me call this. If I am able to access the service, okay, port number 80 could not connect to the server. Okay, let me check with the EC2 endpoint service. If I am able to hit this particular DNS name, it should be good. Paste this, and yeah, it could not able to resolve this host 80. Okay, no issue. I will check and resolve. So inside the private subnet, what I need to do, go in the subnet itself, and for the route table, I need to check the private route table. Route table. Okay, the route table doesn't have access to a security group. So let's go and for for to for to allow the creators. Inside the security group itself, we need to allow this particular service. So let's go on the security groups. Inside the default security group, I don't know which EC2 instance is that. Public security group. Go on security group. I allow inbound traffic. Allow from the security group itself. Another security group itself. Okay, from the HTTP from custom whatever the load balancer which I have load network NLB network. Okay, I need to check the request on this particular part. So health check sensitive stars cloud for origin, not this one. uh, okay, the default security group I can select. Just click on save rules. So for the load balancer itself, I need to check if my listeners are working correctly or not. So let's go back. NLB customer, not here. Forward traffic to particular this target group, and it is showing instances unhealthy. So okay, there are some issues related to the security group definitely. So let me what I can do. Go on a target group. Go select this target group and uh, go on the targets. Okay, go on the targets itself. This is my customer. Okay, I have selected the public subnet EC2. I need to deregister, I need to select the private subnet EC2 instance. So select the pending below, register, and we'll see uh, it is in the initialization stage. Hopefully I should able to access the resource now. So it is initializing currently. Okay, it is in the healthy stage. Let's check now to call this website. Okay, still it's not able to call. Yeah, as you can see, I'm able to resolve this particular IP address. So this is the EC2 instance which resides in my another subnet and inside the another VPC totally. So this is my user private EC2 instance, and if you can see from this EC2 instance, I can able to my access my EC2 instance from the uh, that EC2 instance. So this is the overall architecture that we have created. So hopefully you will hopefully you will hopefully you're able to basically um, see this architecture and you can create by your own. And let me terminate for the cleaning part. I need to terminate all the EC2 instance. The endpoint service. I don't need to use this endpoint service. Before that, I need to remove the endpoint. Delete this endpoint. Delete. Okay, this is endpoint will delete the endpoint service. I need to delete this. Okay, it will take a little time to delete. Go on VPC, select those two customer and private VPCs. Okay, not create a full flow log. We need to delete those tools. Okay, delete this VPC. And currently, it is saying in use because our EC2 instances are running. So allow it some time and we should delete all those resources. So for the security group, we need to remove all the security groups, elastic IPs, the NAT gateways that you have created, the endpoint services, endpoint components, and all those things we need to remove. Okay, we have removed this part. Okay, now delete the customer VPC. Okay, it is still in use somewhere. Let's go and user VPC, delete this. Okay, this is also in somewhere. Okay, no issue. Go on the endpoints. Let's delete this endpoint. Some endpoints cannot be deleted. Why? Okay, okay, it is on the deleting stage. So let me delete this endpoint service. This is stuck in this particular stage. Let me try to delete the release this IP address. Okay, I have released the elastic public IP address, internet gateways. I need to remove those two. Delete, delete, internet gateway. For the route table, I just remove the route table. Okay, not able to remove. For the subnet, I can delete subnet. No, I can't. I couldn't because everything is used in stage. So you can remove all those things and you're good to go. You didn't incur any charges for that. Thank you.